Welcome, everyone. I want to thank the Wyoming State Survey Agency and Region 8 CMS for approving this reinvestment project called Implementing Culture Change Throughout Wyoming, Affecting Resident-Directed Living, how do you like that, and team member retention. My name is Carmen Bowman. It's been my joy to get to work with you all as the facilitator for this 3-year project. One of the things we do is a monthly webinar, and the topic at hand today is building relationships and retention, how they go together. How do you like that? So I'm going to show you how they go together, and they truly do. So I'm going to start with a few of the principles of changing culture. They're also known as the core values of the Pioneer Network that formed in 1996 to represent changing institutional culture. And 3 of the principles, look at this, that I just want to highlight with the ideas of today. Put the person before the task. Oh, that's our goal. Know the person, 3 little words. Know the person is key to having great care and an even better life that includes great care, right? And then relationship is the fundamental building block of a transformed culture. Guess what? People who have changed culture through 3 decades, I can quote them. So many of them talk about how you have to build relationships. How else can you know people well? How else can you have a less institutional culture but to know people? And today I want to apply this to both the people who live there as well as the people who work there. So obviously we want to put the person before the task, know the person, and build a relationship with people who live there. But what do you think about actually knowing the person, building relationship, and even putting the person before the job for those who work there? I just love that. So we're really going to focus probably more today on those of you who work there. And I want to start with a quote by a famous Dr. Bill Thomas, who started the Eden Alternative, started the greenhouse, started so many things. In fact, he's got something brand new up his sleeve. It's starting next month in Colorado. Keep your eyes open for that. But look at what he says. The true cause of burnout is the deadening effect of closing one's emotions to people who are in obvious need of a human connection. Human life is sustained by affection. So he's kind of calling out that if we really keep perpetuating an institutional model, then we have to treat people like not people sometimes, right? If we put the task before the person, we sometimes have to ignore that that's a person. I hate to say that, but that is what plagues this. That's why we have a movement to change institutional culture. Human life is sustained by affection. You know, another way to say that is love everyone. I'm not ashamed to say that we're actually in the business of love. And I've heard big, like, businessmen in the movement say that. Don't forget, we're in the business of love. Isn't that great? I so appreciate when people say it like it is. And a lot of older people need a lot of love. I mean, we all do, but don't be shy to give them your love and your friendship and your relationship, because that's going to decrease stress and help people to feel like they are living a worthwhile life, even though they might live in a nursing home, you know? And then I want to share a more recent quote with you all. You can all watch this, and I highly recommend it. We have 5 beautiful videos of change culture in Wyoming. One of them is Westward Heights. And look at this quote. It's nice to have our eyes on the people who live here rather than the clock. And this team, I'd like to really invite you all to watch this. They explain how they change their culture so that they're watching the people more than they're watching the clock. They're putting the people, the person, before the task. They stopped waking people up every 2 hours, according to the clock, and they assessed what individuals need as an individual and care plan, whether they needed more often or less often. Isn't that great? A real life example. I just have so many examples, you know, through the years, and some are older, and many of you have done some of these now. How many of you have continental breakfast? It's a wonderful way to start to honor people maybe sleeping longer. By the way, it's a wonderful way to honor people who wake up early and maybe want to eat before the typical breakfast starts, right? And then add to that, many homes that I know of have offered the breakfast meal to the people who work there as well. And they kind of make a deal. like, hey, help yourself and sit down and build relationship with someone who lives here. Isn't that wonderful? Doesn't cost a lot of money. Life Care of Casper did a continental breakfast, and they talk on their video about how easy it is. It's so easy to have food out there and have it available. So that's an easy way to build relationship and to fill people's tummy and to put the people before the tasks. Here's another story out of Colorado many years ago. They did what they call Wednesday buffet. They actually brought the food out of the kitchen, the cooks and people who work in the kitchen out of the kitchen. There's a plus to all of that. And then they invited anyone working on Wednesdays to also help themselves and sit down and dine with the people who live there. And so, again, lots of benefits from this. I love getting people out of the kitchen and getting to know people better that they serve. By the way, you could do that every day. And sometimes maybe bringing the food out. Many of you are moving more towards steam table type of offerings. So hot food carts, getting the food closer to the people. And then look at this. Here's some of the team members you can see dining with the people who live there. And I was a surveyor at the time. It was in the early 2000s, and I noticed that it got noisy. Can you see that? Could you imagine that? You know, when I realized when people dine together 3 meals a day, the same people every day, 3 times a day, they sometimes run out of things to talk about. I've sat with friends at their table who sit with the same people. And, you know, someone can't hear, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Oh, he makes me mad. It's hard. And so, you know, all the more reason to create life and sit with people, build relationship, friendship. Let it be noisy, right? Get it noisy, guys. The buzz of conversation was really music to my ears. I could almost tear up. And then notice the woman holding her baby. This is the activity director, and the wise administrator told her activity director, you bring your baby.
Everyone, Rehab just returning your call. I guess we're going to play phone tag.
You bring your baby with you whenever you work until she is toddling around. I highly recommend that, everyone. They have story after story of dear people who live there who kind of came back to life thanks to that baby coming to work every day with the activity director. And so I encourage all of you, whoever you are, to consider dining with residents. Sit down with your own lunch if you need to start there. Sit down with just a cup of coffee if you need to start there. You know, when someone's new, they're not a new admin, they're a new person, they're a new neighbor. Think about how you get to know your neighbors, you know, over coffee, maybe over a beer. Think of real life for people and make it happen. Now, this is a picture of the dining room table at a greenhouse home. Brittany Hull's on the line, and she gets to work in a brand new greenhouse cottage. Help me, Brittany. Tell everyone where it is and the title again. Oh, can't hear you. I don't know why. Shoot. There you go.
Cottages.
What are they called again?
They're we call them the cottages.
And where are they again? Yeah.
They're in Buffalo.
Okay, just so everyone knows, that's all. She just showed me around the cottage, and I saw a similar beautiful big table. Now, everyone just pause on this for a minute. A big dining room table is pretty normal, right? If you think of your home and mine, there's a dining room table. Oftentimes it's bigger than maybe the people who do live there every day, right? And so the greenhouse has been very intentional to have a big dining room table for everyone in the house to dine together. And then I just want to show you, this is an old picture, but a life care home in Colorado just smushed the tables together. This is actually in one of the dining rooms where people need assistance. Isn't that wonderful? To feel like you're part of the family, to feel like you're with other people. It just changes the dynamics. And then right out of your state again, Westward Heights has also done this. Even though they're not a greenhouse or an Eden home, they learned the ideas of greenhouse and Eden that it's called convivium. If you look up this older Roman word, you know, convivium just means dining together, eating together, sitting together, feasting together, taking your time together. We got to get rid of that old institutional way that you got to hurry up and eat so they can what? Clean the kitchen, clean the dining room for what? For nobody to be in it? That's ridiculous, right? So convivium is a lovely word to maybe study, look up, talk about, and it will help you to build relationship with one another. Just push the tables together. In fact, Brittany and Patrick, you're on the line. Shani, you were there at our conference on August 11th. Did you notice we did this with the tables? It was all typical classroom style, and our main faculty, Linda Shell, she's a doctor of education. She knew not to do that. Guess what? In the research, if we all sit in the classroom style, it does something to our heads that kind of prevents us from learning. Can you kind of see that? Like it kind of puts us back in school in a way, or I don't know, back maybe more negative. I got to sit here and listen whether I want to or not. I don't know. But I want to learn from that. There's so much value. And even in the research where we sit together, we look at each other around a table rather than the backs of people's heads, So here comes a poll. I want to ask you all. Here we go. Poll time. If everyone could do it with me. What is long-term care known for? Is it known for generic care or individualized care? What are we known for? What are we known for? Kind of a trick question, right? All right, what are we known for? Let's say we'll end the poll and share the results. And most people say we're known, the institutional way really is known for more of a generic care approach, right? I'm going to talk more about it. Let's do another poll just for fun. Ready? You'll never guess what it is. Where's my other poll? Come on, poll. It's coming. Huh. Sorry. I thought it'd be easier than this. Back. Here we go. Yep, here it comes. Why won't it launch now? Oh dear. Why? Okay, guess what? It still thinks there's another one going. I'm so sorry. I want to figure this out one more time. Bear with me. Polls are so much fun. Here we go. Which would you rather be known for? Which would you like long-term care to be known for? Generic care or individualized care? Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Sharing the results. Yes, we'd all rather be known for individualized care. Absolutely. Now, going to talk a lot about that. So first of all, that's what we want. That's what we all want. We're all moving in that direction. Here's a famous quote from our movement. No longer are the needs of the institution going to come before the needs of the individual. Whew. Let that sink in, everyone. No longer are the needs of the institution going to come before the needs of the individuals who actually live in this place that is actually their home. I contend, everyone, what if we really not only talked about it, but lived up to the fact that this is people's home? What if you thought of yourselves as home health care? I don't know. It just interests me. Think of going into someone's house. How would you act differently? Think of it more that way than your place of work, where your office is, where your degree hangs on the wall, maybe. The more we shift to talking about and really treating it like this is their home, I wonder what we could make happen. And did you know a lot of regulations say this stuff? Okay, look at this. This is actually from Tag 600, Freedom from Abuse. There's a list of identified characteristics that could increase the risk of abuse. It's a longer list, but look at one thing that's on here. Are you ready? Policies operate in the interest of the institution rather than the residents. Can you believe that? That is at the abuse tag, everyone. Do you have policies that operate in the interest of the institution rather than the people who live there, whose home it is? Here's another one under tag 561, self-determination. Homes must not develop a schedule for care, such as waking or bathing schedules, for staff convenience and without the input of the residents. So from now on, it's not really staff's fault. If I could rewrite this, I would take staff convenience out and just say, for the convenience of the institution, right? The flow of an institution. Those 3 shifts, everyone, we're not bound to them. Did you know that? Now I know they're typical when there's 24-hour care, but I have heard of teams who, when they stop making it about the institution and start making about the people who live there, you see natural changes to staff scheduling. So for instance, a home in Colorado realized they didn't need as many people in the morning because people were sleeping longer. And some beautiful stories came out like really, you don't need all of us here at 6 a.m. Well, I would volunteer to come later because then maybe I could take my kids to daycare and not to my mom's house first. You see, a lot of beautiful things that ended up blessing both the people who live there as well as the people who work there. So you do not have to be bound by, what we all know, even though we know it and it's been common, doesn't mean you're bound by it. Thank God you're not required by regulation to have certain shifts. So your work schedules could, and I would almost say, what do you think, should match the people who actually live there. So many of these practices you see reflect generic care. If you think of check and change everyone 2 hours, that's a good example of generic care. That's old culture. In fact, have you ever heard this? Oh, we can't do anything special for him because then we'd have to do something special for everybody. Isn't that sad? That is evidence we have a problem. Because think about it. These individuals live in this home. What are they supposed to get? These individuals are supposed to get care that matches them as an individual. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? But because we've all grown up in it, we kind of have to unravel and get rid of generic care and increase the individualized care. Back to the every 2-hour thing. Could it be someone needs checked and changed more often than 2 hours? Yeah. Could it be someone needs checked and changed less often? Yeah. And then you'll hear leaders say, we weren't taking advantage of the fact that we do have the pressure relieving mattresses or the longer wear incontinence products. Take advantage, you're paying good money for some of these things. Realize there's lots of different things at play here that can help us get better at honoring sleep and giving individualized care rather than generic. So notice all these things I'm saying. Individualized care would really be the same as person-centered care, better yet, person-directed care, which means you're going to meet the regs better. I just showed you some. And how are we going to do it? Only by knowing the person well, which also translates to more relationship, more friendship. We got to call it out. We've all grown up in this business that kind of poo-pooed building friendship, building relationship, and again, the word love. So here's a story, a home that stopped waking people up. Sure enough, residents were happier, better rested, contented. People not sleeping in the middle of the afternoon. For one particular woman, Betty, they said there's no battle. Well, of course not, because when you make someone get up or make them feel like they must do what you're telling them, nobody likes that. So there was somewhat of a battle every morning, and they flipped it. They made it all about her instead. And I love that because, see, it flies in the face of, oh, we can't treat someone special. Actually, we're supposed to. So to treat everyone special, everyone individualized, make it all about her and all about him. Yes, you can and you should. And guess what? Everything ends up going better anyway. And so then how do we get to know people better? Is our normal assessment process doing it for us? I contend not. Are any of you formed to death? Do you feel formed to death? Me too. And because of that, I actually recommend don't add any more forms. Like, I'm not going to give you another form. And I love to remind you, how would you and I get to know each other? Would you bring your form? Would you bring your clipboard? Neither would I. And so go get to know people more normal. Have lunch, have coffee, have a beer if it's in your culture. Let's get normal with people. Invite them to sit with you in the library or in the courtyard. You and I, would you come and sit on my bed in my house to get to know me? Would I sit on your bed? You know, I love it when people call this stuff out. It's so weird in an institution. It's not normal. So the more you make it normal, the better. And the more you just get to know someone, regardless of a form, regardless of the MDS, don't let yourself get boxed in by the MDS. I've just met a few people that are new to this business, and I realize they're only going by the MDS, nothing else. And it was my joy to remind them, you can go outside the MDS, and I highly recommend you do. That's how you'll really get to know people. So what we do is not all that normal. And I really encourage you to get to normal. I actually wrote a workbook, co-authored this with, and we also did a training DVD, and we kind of go after some of this. Would you rather get to know someone over a clipboard or over coffee? So go get to know people. Another idea we added to this training resource, we actually use the word soften as a mnemonic device. So the S is to support simple pleasures. You can do that to get to know people. The O is to offer options, choice, especially when someone's just moving in. Like I said, you want to sit in the garden and talk rather than in your room, but what would you prefer? Foster friendship, tie into the task. That means our tasks, but you don't need to say the task you must do. You can watch someone walk without, you know, making it all only about the walking. And then the E stands for equalizing everyone, and the N for, you won't be surprised, normalize. So equalizing everyone, the more you can do, I've learned, to equalize the fact that you're all people. Some people work there, some people live there. Nobody's more important. The staff are not more important than the people who live there. Imagine, everyone, that you are older and you got to move into a nursing home. Or maybe you're the age you are and you have, God forbid, an accident and you got to move into a nursing home, right? How are we going to feel when we are at the mercy of other people? Nobody likes this, right? And so the people that are often older than us are already at a disadvantage because they're in the role of being taken care of. And then we have the temptation to act like a parent when we are taking care of other people. And so I just want to remind you all, the more you can ward against that, the better. Because adults do not like to be told what to do by other adults, do we? And then you add to that they're older than you. So what can you do to always equalize? And I'll tell you what, dining with residents is a lovely way to equalize, because we're all people and we all got to eat lunch, right? So go have lunch. I've heard story after story, only good, of whenever anyone sits down and has lunch with people. I know a former administrator in Colorado, she had lunch at a different table every day that she worked. And you know what she would say? This is her famous quote. She would say, I know what's going on in my building. Isn't that wonderful? So just sit down. You're going to eat lunch anyway, and you will know what's going on in your building. Another neat thing I've heard, directors of nursing say, wow, I know a lot more about how someone's eating because I spend time in the dining room dining with them. And I'm more informed at care conference. I love that. Now, here's my sad example of equalizing. I heard it years ago. You know, Katrina was, I think, 2005. And after the fact, you heard people say, we weren't residents and staff. We were people fighting for our lives. So that's my sad equalizing example. But then I had the experience to go to a baby shower at a nursing home and learn about how both staff and residents planned the baby shower, held the baby shower, and noticed this very concept that it was very equalizing. So that's what we want to get after. More and more and more ways to just be people together. So another idea I've heard is singing in a choir. You know, if you were to have a choir and anyone's welcome, see, you're not staff and residents, you are the members of the choir. Doing the community meetings is another way to equalize. Like, see this picture here. We have staff and residents in a circle talking about life in this place together. And if any of you have other thoughts, let me know in the chat box. What else is equalizing, do you think? So then you've all probably heard of the guardian angel idea. I've heard it called buddies, ambassadors. On the artifacts tool, we also refer to a similar concept called troubleshooter, which kind of goes a little step above. It's like a case manager right in the house, you know, even like the maintenance guy could be a case manager and double check, serve like a quality assurance checkpoint. Did Mildred get to the dentist yesterday like she was supposed to? Isn't that cool? Anyway, here's a story of relationship. No one, no staff, excuse me, no family members were living anymore. This older woman had no family. She outlived family and friends. And now she's near the end of her life. She has to go to the hospital. So guess who went with her? Her staff buddy. They became such close friends, really more like family. She became more like a daughter. I guess prior to the hospital, this older woman would not do things for anybody but this young gal. And then sure enough, guess whose arms she actually died in? Her staff buddy's arms. Talk about relationship and friendship and love, right? Same home. This is another buddy situation. Sure enough, the young guy who works at the nursing home happened to be this woman's first grade student, and she was his first grade teacher. And apparently she had been going to church on Sundays, getting picked up by some friends, and then that fell through. And so her staff buddy, who was also one of her students, volunteered to then keep taking her to church on Sundays. Isn't that wonderful? Friendship. I just mentioned community meetings. I don't have time to go into them. We've dedicated whole webinars to them. I highly, highly, highly recommend them. Why? Because your whole place is a community. And the more you get together as a community, both people who work there as well as people who live there, as well as family members, ombudsman, whomever is a part of your community, you know, good things happen when your community spends time together, talks to each other, laughs together. Maybe sometimes you mourn together, celebrate things together, talk about things together, plan things together. You just can't go wrong. So it's another way to build connection and build relationship. And we actually recommend daily. I know that may sound like a lot to some of you, but it has a lot of benefit and great communication. In fact, here's a story of a home that did this daily. Not only did they do it in English daily, they also did another one in Spanish daily down in Denver. Can you believe that? That's a big commitment. And they became so good at being a community. Look at this. They would make decisions together, even budget decisions at times. That blows my mind. Apparently there was a tight time financially, and people who live there said things like, hey, give us cheaper toilet paper. We don't want anyone to lose their job. This is what we're talking about, right? This is friendship, love. And another neat thing, let's see, if a vendor, let's say someone walked in and they wanted to show someone a new product, guess what? They are told they will need to come back in the morning to the community meeting and to share their new product with everyone. Can you believe that? Then they're doing things like they're sampling the juice, like how much money is this juice and how much money is that juice? I love it. That is living up to home, everyone. When you give decision-making authority back to the people who live there. So they ended up deciding that these daily community meetings would serve as their resident council. They did not do resident council in addition. Now you could, it's up to you and your community, but that's what happened there. And they kept notes of every meeting so that because they're saying this is resident council, they also had their notes. And then here's the other thing. If an issue came up yesterday, guess what? It is brought to the community meeting today. And that convinces me, everyone, that monthly meetings are too far out. And I've heard people say it over and over. Monthly is too far out. So I'd love for you to consider maybe weekly. You could consider neighborhood meetings. You know, on a neighborhood, they have different things. Maybe there's something important to this group that's different than this group over here. It's another neat way to do it. And to deal with issues in real time, I think that trumps everything. How about you? And then another last famous quote that the resident council president told a surveyor one year. Get this, ready? Resident council president tells surveyor, we run this place. You know what? You will get survey done quicker when residents, people who live there, say that they run this place. Yeah, I love it. Okay. Now, speaking of that, shouldn't they run the place? It's their home. Yeah, I think they should. How about you? During COVID, I heard this beautiful quote from an Asian leader, Emi Kyoto. I think it's from Japan, and she shared that there's a proverb in the Asian culture that when let me think. Let's see. Looking into the future is sort of like looking backwards. We don't know what's coming. And she says, notice an older person, an elder, when they look backwards, they have a lot more to see. They have a lot more to look at. Therefore, their opinion matters. They've been through a lot. They've been through more than you and I have. They got more to go with. So all the more reason to involve people who live there, particularly older people too, and not discard them, but to involve them in problem solving, ask for their ideas, their opinions. In fact, I would, sometimes people kind of move away from words like grievance and complaint. They're fine. I don't mean to be weird about language, but the point here is to involve them more, to help problem solve more, to, yes, point out what could be better more. In fact, have any of you heard this? Instead of a complainer, you could think of that person as an informant. You want to know what goes on in your building, don't you? You want to be on top of things, don't you? So you want people to speak up. You don't want to hide that. And another neat thing I've learned from that, my daughter and I, that's her on the floor there, for, let's see, 9 years, we went twice a month. And then for, 13 years, we were once a month. Like we dropped the twice a month. But after some trial and error, I realized that the thing to ask older people for is their wisdom. Because, I even tried to do like reminiscence, and a lot of people would say, I don't remember. But we tended to get more out of like, what advice would you give on how to be a good friend, on how to be a good student, on how to handle money, whatever it was. And I would love to encourage all of you listening to ask people for their wisdom, because as we get older, what else do we have to give, really? It kind of pairs down for all of us, but I can certainly share things I've learned from my life. And then another neat thing, our kids learned that even with dementia, people have something to offer. There was a gentleman, Harold, who was a sheriff. And even though he couldn't really answer how to handle money, let's say, he would always come to, well, all I know is don't get in a car with a stranger and don't cross the street by yourself. And our children learned that even though he didn't answer the question exactly, he had a lot to give. And we looked forward to it. And we kind of giggled, but not in a disrespectful way, like just what we knew what was coming. And we loved it. And we loved Harry for it. You all could collect wisdom. I did. You could have chapters on all these different ideas, how to raise a family, how to have a toddler, how to have a teenager, how to multitask, whatever, how to have a long marriage, whatever. And then think about compiling all the wisdom from the people you get to work with, and maybe compiling a wisdom book. I say we need more wisdom books than cookbooks. How about you? We got a lot of cookbooks. So, all right, I'm going to move on to another concept that kind of fits. Yes, Brittany, a fundraiser. Go do it. Go do it. So consistent staffing. I've also heard it called dedicated staffing. That's just language they chose. They looked at the word, dedicated, the same staff, take care of the same people. I hope I don't need to convince any of you of this. It's really the key. It's a key to building relationship, to knowing people well. When you know who's going to care for you the certain days of a week, it decreases your stress. When you don't know who's going to take care of you, it increases your stress. Same for the caregiver. If they know who they're going to work with, it does the same for their stress level. Plus, we know that team members tend to pick up on changes much quicker if you work with the same person all the time. I've heard stories, guys, where physicians give credit to the CNA who noticed, let's say Carmen didn't drink her coffee like she always does. They they have given credit to preventing hospitalizations because when you have the same team members dedicated to serving the same people who live there, you can pick up on things like that. Similarly, you see relationships with families tend to be improved when it's the same people. We even see it in the research, higher staff morale, better attendance, and less turnover. Another big study showed that people themselves that lived in the nursing homes, the residents, identified good relationships with direct caregivers as more important than the quality of food or medical care. That'd be interesting. You all work with people. Ask them to rank some things. Do your own study. That'd be interesting. What is more important to people? If you start to see quality of life, friendship is more important than food to me, that's telling you a lot, right? And you know how I keep saying, go have lunch. Some of you go have lunch Monday with different tables of people and watch. Be ready to observe what's happening, okay? Here's why. One time a colleague went and did it the next day that I was consulting with them, and they talk about how, sure enough, here is a manager sitting down with these people who live there. The other table of people who live there said, hey, if you're eating with them today, you better eat with us tomorrow. It was sort of like fighting in a way, right? Not really. And Brittany, you've had the same thing happen, it sounds like. Do you have a story to tell? Tell us.
So when we started that at Life Care Center of Casper, that's exactly what happened. We started eating, and we'd go and, you just sit down with a table that's got an open seat. And then they were kind of jockeying, and they would kind of scuttle into the dining room and hurry and pull a chair over so that there was a spot for someone to sit with them. They were very eager for you to sit down and for them to get to eat with you. And they were like, no, it's our day to eat with them. You don't get to do that today. It was so fun.
You guys, look at this, Brittany and everyone. I want to say this. Ready? What are they really hungry for?
Your attention,
Well,
your affection.
isn't that something? And it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? They get food. People who live in nursing homes, they get food. A lot of food. 3 meals a day, food, snacks. They get food. They're not getting the love and affection and connection that we need, right? And back to this story, similarly, another that also happened in this way. They kind of noticed they didn't only eat, like usually they just only ate, but now they were talking and visiting and laughing. They weren't just eating. Isn't that great? Much more happy, they told us later. And staff and residents relate better when you sit and laugh and talk and eat together. Isn't that wonderful? Please go do it, everyone. And now I just want to whip through a bunch of research that kind of says what we know. So treat every employee as an individual, of course. And wouldn't that be the same individualized care, right? Like never try to fix weakness, but play on people's strengths. Some of us heard that from Linda Shell the last 2 weeks ago. Play on people's strengths. I love that, and talents. Pay attention to employees and what they need, their satisfaction level. And hopefully you all know this. We tend to leave our immediate supervisors, not so much the company. So relationship is important, right? What matters most to employees, my interview works specifically with nursing homes and the long-term care profession. People need help with stress and burnout. Affection, lunch, free lunch, dining with, talking to, building friendship, asking for wisdom. That's all going to help with stress and burnout. Knowing that management cares about you, listens to you, a safe place to work. Yes, of course. Appreciation. We've all heard that. If you're not given appreciation, you should, we should, I should, because we've heard that our whole career probably. And you are being cared about by your supervisor as a person. Individualized care. I can't get over that. And then here's another study, a different study having to do with CNAs in particular, when they feel dismissed, not included, they tell us they feel robbed of respect and self-esteem, valued only for their physical labor, not valued as a person. And of course, that's going to reduce their commitment and create more absenteeism and turnover. So, you know what I love to point out there? Hopefully you all know, not only is it a culture change practice, it's also a reg. CNAs are to be a part of care conference. You know, if you think about, of all the meetings CNAs should be invited to, wouldn't that be the one? And yet, in our history, we haven't included them. And so there's that feeling of being dismissed. And we have this great opportunity. And when they do, look at this, more research shows when they're included where they should be, like care conference, we see the improvement in the turnover improving and their satisfaction also improving. And we included that on the artifacts tool. So it's a good idea. It's in the research. It's considered a culture change practice, and it's also in the regulation. The early pioneer homes all saw a reduction in turnover. I won't go through each one. And the homes that have been involved in this project, you know, I wish I could say it was all of them, but everyone had different circumstances going on. And we did see, though, believe it or not, even in the earlier days of COVID, Granite and Star Valley in year 1 saw some reduction in turnover. And then in year 2, Life Care of Casper and Westward Heights also saw reduction in turnover by, you know, we think changing institutional culture assisted with that. So then I would ask you, is your culture warm or cold? This is a really neat thing that the Eden Alternative talks about. What's your temperature of your culture? How do your different shifts relate to each other? Your different, I don't like to say departments, but how do your different teams relate to each other? Do you have a culture that we're with each other, we're for each other, we're not against each other? And then the Eden Alternative also suggests an idea to warm up a culture if yours needs warming. And they would, if you were in Eden home, you somewhere along the way you would hear this, to learn what a mitzvah is and then to pass it on. So apparently it's a Jewish word that means like giving a gift without anyone knowing who gave it. And just imagine you got a gift, but you don't know who it's from, or someone did a kind thing and you don't know who did it. And you know, you guys are Wyoming. What if I cleaned your car off of the snow, Brittany? How would you feel if I cleaned your car off and your car was cleaned off when you got there?
That's so nice.
Yeah. Now, see, I could tell you, hey, Brittany, I cleared your car, and you would thank me, and that would be it. Here's the point. What if I didn't tell you? What if you wonder all week long and you wonder the rest of your life, who would do such a kind thing? You see, it actually builds the whole culture when you don't know who did it. Isn't that great? So highly recommend it. Mitzvah. Brittany's listening.
It's on my bulletin board right next to my computer.
Oh, now you didn't just put it there. Is that
no?
because...
It's been there for months because it's a greenhouse training.
Okay, good to know. Glad to hear it. How else did they talk about it, Brittany? Or any other examples? Yeah.
The same thing. And oddly, when they came and did the training with us, it was during February. So they used the exact same example.
They did?
The ladies who come are from New York. And so it was blizzarding while they were here. And so that's exactly what we used is what if I shoveled your car and really? you had no idea who did it, but then you take that and you pay it forward. And then the mitzvah grows and it makes your community much warmer for your staff.
Oh, thank you, Brittany. I didn't realize it was still being talked about. I'm glad to hear that. It should be. Let's all learn what a mitzvah is and pass them on. I suppose an unsolicited act of kindness would be another way to say it. Yeah. Okay, more studies. Positive relationships with our coworkers also helps to lower our burnout risk. 58 studies show this. 19,000 people employed in 15 countries, how strongly people identified with work colleagues or the organization was associated with better health and lower risk of burnout. Excuse me. Another practice that I just want to mention that can build relationship is the learning circle. So you do sit in a circle on purpose because we see each other better, we hear each other better, and we're all equal. It's so good. If you can ever make sure whatever's happening is in a circle, it's always very beneficial. I've even just had resident councils sit in a circle, even though it might not have been a technical learning circle. And we had people tell us they came because they saw the circle. Can you believe that? And they heard better and they felt more included. Voila, circle. And then in the Native American tradition, they have what they call the talking stick. In my Eden alternative training, I got to make one. You all could make your own talking stick, or you could just decide, hey, everybody, what should we decide is our talking stick? And then you have something that is passed around. It's just something visual if you want it. You don't have to. And then, typically it's used to solve a problem, and it's very good for that. That's really what you want it to end up doing, probably, to be able to learn maybe how to do something better. But you can also lead into it like this. I really like it when you might say what's going well with something and what could be better, because you balance out. It's not like all the negatives only. Like sometimes we talk about resident council as only negative. In fact, you could try that at resident council. What's going well here at the nursing home? What could be better? Everyone has the right to speak, but they also have the right to pass. And then if someone did pass, you just try to ask at the end, did you still want to add something or not? You don't force people to talk. You ask for a volunteer to start. You could do this, obviously, with people who live there, with people who work there, with families, with a mixed group. And you could just use it for getting to know each other better, too. You can start circles with where were you born, I suppose. Costs no money. You really get to know each other better, build relationship. Here's another idea that I've had for a long time, and that simply is, think of it as having a getting to know each other better question of the week. You could have factual questions like where were you born? Where'd you grow up? How many siblings do you have? Did you go to college and where, et cetera, et cetera. Just have one question a week. Have it posted when you walk into the building, have it posted on bulletin boards, have it posted by the time clock, just a few key places, and encourage everyone to get to know each other better. Then you could do favorites. What's your favorite, you finished the sentence, movie? What's your favorite dessert? What was your favorite vacation, book, etc.? That could be for the whole week. And I in my personality, I could just see myself, Brittany, like if I hadn't seen you all week, or Patrick, or Jamie, I'm like, Jamie, I haven't asked you. Jamie, what's your favorite movie? And Jamie, could you tell us?
I don't know that I have one, actually.
Jamie, how about book?
Same. I have
Okay.
authors that I enjoy, and I
Yeah.
have series that I enjoy.
Okay. Tell us one of the series. How about
The
author?
Parker series from Michael Connolly is
Okay.
a very good series, and it's
Okay.
probably like 15 books steep. So if you're looking for a new one, that's a good one.
Okay, see? Love it. Now we know something more about you, Jamie. Love it. And then, of course, there's deeper questions. So let's see, who might be willing to do this with me? Patrick or Tammy or Shani? If you could be an animal, what would you be and why? Who knows? Maybe you've done that one before.
Probably a bear,
And why?
because bears are just big and powerful.
Okay, see? And it's your answer, right? I love it.
Yep.
Thank you, Patrick. So that's just something I've noticed. Favorites, facts, and discussion starters. You can look on your phone, right? For discussion starting questions. You could have a question of the week on the tables in the dining room too for people. And then if you have team members sit with them, they could help create that conversation. Look at this. Have you heard of all the research about friendship, in the workplace. Friendships will keep people. You want your teammates to invite their friends, right? You want it to be such a good workplace that people want their friends there. They say it takes 30% additional salary to move to a different nursing home when the person is happy where they are. Workplace relationships impact our ability to succeed, and being valued and having these trusting relationships links to higher engagement, of course, favorable attitude, intention to stay, and even people tend to advocate for your organization when they feel like this. Isn't that great? I mentioned the house or the neighborhood council idea. A neighborhood that gets together more often can start to, think about what's their identity. Maybe they want to name the neighborhood and not just be Unit B or whatever. Each neighborhood might have different issues, different problems, different needs, right? It's really a lovely concept to get people together more in these smaller groups concerning where they live. They tend to be attended better because it's my neighborhood and because it's smaller. Sometimes the bigger resident council might put off people. Plus, it tends to make more sense for your team members to go to the neighborhood meeting or neighborhood council, whereas, the nurse on Aspen neighborhood would probably never think to go to resident council. So something to think about. I've also heard of mayors being elected and I've heard of block parties. Come on. And then, if we're going to have resident council, neighborhood councils, you could consider an employee council. We've done webinars on that, and a family council. Why not? All these different groups have different needs and different things they need to talk about. You could also think about having mentors. Hey, Patrick, would you be willing to tell people how you have sort of fallen into a role with an elder who's sort of become your mentor, I think?
Yeah, he's so much fun. So we've included him in our culture change meetings, and Carmen gets to see this firsthand. We often defer to him to answer questions, and sometimes his answers are, he loves to poke at us a little bit and just have a little fun with us. So it's always enlightening to hear what he says, and it's always fun to hear what he says. And I think he's gotten to the point now where he thoroughly enjoys giving me a hard time. But I've also gone and just sat and chatted with him in his room about, little frustrations that we have about, ways that we're trying to improve, and just that sage wisdom of, being told, things take time, you're doing the right thing, keep moving forward. It's pretty amazing.
Wonderful. Yeah. Patrick, I love watching this. He teases you. Guys tease each other a lot. He's got sarcasm, but we've also seen deep meaning, haven't we?
Yes.
We asked him, everyone, one day, what brings you joy? We just thought we'd try that open-ended question. And you know what he said? Serving on a committee like this. It proved the point, right? So
Yep.
you all could create this idea of mentor for yourselves from the people who live there. You could create mentorships for new employees. And we've even seen, resident to resident buddies. People need people, right? Especially when they're new. Beautiful story. Love the story. Eden Alternative Home in Colorado, the DON, would say every resident council, hey residents, hey people who live here, hey neighbors, hey community members, we need you to love on the team members as much as they're loving on you. We need you to care for them just as much as they're caring for you. Isn't that beautiful? In the Eden Alternative, they talk about the imbalance of care. If you guys are just giving care, you need to be given care as well. And then when you just receive care, that's not healthy either. You got to give love and care. So all she did was remind people it's okay to care for one another. And then I happened to see her years ago in October, and she told me that her mother passed away in the summertime. And then she said, Carmen, wouldn't you know, three dear people who live here still check on me every single morning to see how I'm doing since my mom passed away. And I contend it's like the full circle that she created to remind people it's okay to care for each other. Another beautiful quote from a colleague, those who serve our national treasures are themselves treasures. Isn't that beautiful? So I've covered all these ideas. Can you guys please give me some knowledge before and knowledge after right now, all of you in the chat box for the grant? I need your help. And if anyone's willing to tell me what is at least one practice out of today you might be willing to take to your team. Mitzvah is coming to my mind. I think I should take that to my family. Please remember, we're trying to get everyone who works in a nursing home in your state learning about culture change. Please pass on the links for these and the recording. We also have a big goal that people in Wyoming don't get woken up. They wake up naturally. If you haven't watched these 5 they're not webinars, they're videos, they're on YouTube. Please go watch these and please pass them on. Wyoming, you could be famous if we could get the word out. I'm doing my best, but I need help. And you will be inspired by every single one of these stories by your fellow Wyoming nursing homes. And then I have another poll, believe it or not. Let's see. Here we go. Poll. Yep. Here we go. Launch. Ready, go. Which would you rather be referred to as, staff or a team member? So it kind of proves the point, doesn't it? And thank you all. I've just learned, like, when you see it in a poll and you get to vote on it, and then we see 100%, it's like, I don't need to convince you anymore, do I? Team, high five, member, equal, kind of like the circle, right? We're all team members. The word staff doesn't do much for any of us to promote a better culture. Could some of you still give me knowledge before and knowledge after, please? I need a couple more. And here comes another poll. Ready? Launch. Which would you prefer, department or team? You work in this department or you work in this team? Yep, that's what I thought too. We all tend to, when you think about it, the word team is just better, isn't it? Department's pretty antiquated now. Thank you. So we have voted, we've all voted on these calls. I think it's so much fun. 100% prefer home over facility. Come on. And 100% prefer being referred to as a person or an individual, a neighbor, a community member, instead of a patient or a resident. 100% voted for, let's talk about bathroom needs instead of toileting. And I don't remember if we voted on this or not, but last time we talked about talking about what someone prefers in the context of refusal. So when someone refuses, the other way to look at it is they have a preference that we need to meet, and this ain't cutting it, right? Now, just so you know, I'm sending out a word of the month. I'm sending out a handout if you want to try using it in your culture, in your building, in your home, in the home you represent. And so this month's word is the word moving towards approaches instead of intervention. The word intervention is very harsh. We have interventions for drug addictions. The police intervene when it's dangerous. And don't we really mean what approaches, what individualized approaches do we take for these individuals? I'm also sending out each month a principle, a culture change principle of the month. And this month is each person can and does make a difference. And it kind of goes with what we talked about today. There's a free resource on language, and I'm done. Does anyone have any questions or comments or ideas? And people are starting to eat meals with the friends who live there. Thank you, Patrick. That's Bighorn and Sheridan. Anybody else going to take up anything from today? Any comments, questions, mitzvahs? Yeah, for me too, Carrie. Thank you. All righty. Thank you all. I so enjoy getting to work with you all in Wyoming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carmen.
Yep. Happy summer. Enjoy summer, Wyoming, before it's over. Bye.
Bye.